opening, or at least another station opening, and we hope to persuade GCOM to allocate that new station to Region 4, which continues to be the region with the more boxes to be counted. Tomorrow, the 25-day deadline would come to an end, and today, as you are aware, the GCOM at a meeting concluded their deliberations, and a time frame of definition has been arrived at, and so you have the time where the recount exercise is to be concluded and Mr. Lowenfield's report prepared, and then you have the period of time allocated for the commission to declare the final results. So we are happy that we have accomplished that objective, and there is now clarity in terms of the end of the process. However, there are still developments that we find disturbing. Today, you would have listened to Commissioner Vincent Alexander, and you would have listened to Commissioner Sais Gunraj. These are two members of the commission representing different political interests. And you would have heard Mr. Alexander make the startling disclosure that the Secretariat has written or is about to write certain public authorities requesting certain information relative to the allegations which APNU AFC have been making. Now, the Secretariat, under the Constitution and under the various electoral laws, is a unit that is subordinate to and subject to the Commission. The Secretariat must and can only act upon the instructions and directions of the Commission. Mr. Gunraj would have told you that no Commission decision was ever made for these requests to be made. Yet we are told by Mr. Alexander, who purports to speak for the Commission, that these requests have been made. And how does Mr. Alexander knows, but Mr. Gunraj, who sits at all the meetings and who is part of this commission, does not know? It means, in my respectful view, that there is an unholy collaboration between government commissioners and certain elements within the Secretariat acting in concert to carry out the agenda of the APNU AFC. And you would have heard how many times Mr. Alexander in particular has professed his independence as a commissioner. And here it is, not only do you have a Secretariat acting in subordination and unauthorizedly for and on behalf of the Commission, but certain members of the Commission are aware and others are not. Even if it is that the chairperson may have sent the letter, or the CEO, it must be a decision of the Commission. Decisions of the Commission under the Constitution are made by votes. You have three, and a casting vote. Now, so elements within the commission or the secretariat acting in collaboration with a few elements within the commission seem to be on a frolic of their own and carrying out an agenda which other members of the commission are unaware of. Now that is a very disturbing development. And it now has become incumbent for the chairperson to clarify these issues, because we are already on public record speaking about the jurisdiction of the commission in terms of what it can do and what it cannot do, and speaking also to the scope and nature of a recount exercise, and pointing out that you simply can't go beyond the four corners of the order and the powers of the commission. The commission is not an agency endowed with an unlimited plenitude of power. It's a constitutional body whose powers are limited within the four corners of the Constitution. Article 162 speaks to the powers of the Commission. Anytime the Commission goes outside of those parameters, the Commission would be acting ultra vires and illegal. And we don't want the Commission to go in that direction. Now, I heard Mr. Norton here again regaling you with a litany of objections and allegations of wrongdoing. It's not my intention to answer them, except to say that every time Mr. Norton comes here, he makes a very good case for an elections petition, and that those matters can't be addressed in a recount. When persons like Mr. Norton comes here, they never speak about the real fraud. And the only fraud that the world knows that has been perpetrated in relation to these elections is that perpetrated by Mingo. But you're not hearing a word about that. And then you're not hearing anything about their statements of poll. And these are people who have proclaimed to have won the elections. And as I keep making the point, would have had polling agents throughout the country. And yet this massive fraud would have taken place in their presence, in the presence of their polling agents, in the presence of the press, not detected by the observer teams, not detected by the population generally, not detected by their supporters who are in the thousands right across the length and breadth of this country. And they come here and tell you with a straight face about these. And you know what is miraculous also is the fact that these things only happen in the areas where the PPP got a majority of the votes. I don't understand how it is that GCOM machinery malfunctioned only in PPP areas, and in PNC areas or APNU areas, the machinery functions smoothly. All the poll books and so on are there. So it's a narrative, whether you want to continue to entertain it is a matter for you, but it's a narrative that has no place here and must be the subject of an elections petition. Another strange thing is that GCOM chooses, if they have written the secretariat, I don't know who has written this infamous or these infamous letters, or who intend to write them, but there is a letter from the URP party requesting a probe into Mingo's fraud, the real documented fraud, the fraud that has caused us to be here in the first place, and we are not seeing any movement in the direction of investigating Mingo fraud. But you have allegations being manufactured and concocted by party who has a self-serving interest in manufacturing them, and it appears as though the Secretariat or the Commission is ready and willing to embark upon a wild goose chase on lawful and ultra vires, but the real fraud, it's not inviting the police to come and investigate. So these are matters that we have to, over the next few days, work on GCOM to get some clarity on, because it does not augur well for the credibility of GCOM itself, and certainly for the future direction of the process. So I thought that I will stop there and invite any comments which you may have or questions.
Mr. Nandlall, are you aware, not from reports out here, but from being in there, that the Secretariat, or anyone in the Secretariat has written to the Chief Immigration Officer?
I am going on what Mr. Alexander said earlier today. In a particular station, I am told that one APNU AFC representative, and it's supposed to, I'm told that it is on the audio live broadcast, said in the workstation during the deliberation or the recounting exercise, that he knows that yesterday a letter was dispatched either from the Secretariat or from GCOM. But then Mr. Alexander, I believe, confirmed that letters are going to be dispatched or are likely to be dispatched.
Okay, we continue to see language in the order for the recount, now that it's been amended, which seems to imply that the Commission's adoption of the official results of the recount would not be automatic, that the Commission would determine whether it would ask Mr. Lowenfield to submit such a report.
I myself have noted that language, and my inquiry has revealed that it's simply a transplant of the language that was in the previous order being translated down and now appears in this amended order. I had expressed my misgivings about it, but I believe that the chairperson has publicly committed to the declaration of results, final results, based upon the recount. And I heard Mr. Alexander also saying that he expects an automatic flow of information from the CEO report to the Commission. So I wouldn't place much weight at this point in time, because look, you have to, GCOM is a public authority, it's a constitutional body, and one expects that there is a presumption of regularity, and that GCOM, constituted by a former High Court judge, Court of Appeal judge if you wish, and 6 reputable commissioners, will not want to make this nation a joke by conducting an exercise which produces a result and then refuses to disclose that result. That would be a tragedy of gigantic proportion.
Just for the sake of clarity, you would agree that these are commitments, views, sentiments, whatnot more, but in black and white, the acceptance or the use of the recount results is not automatic.
On the face of it, I would say to you that it is unhappily expressed. I will concede that much. Any other question?
Thank you, sir.
You're most welcome.